When did she overstep the mark? When she began the profile. She wanted to make friends. Her own life had disappeared into the doldrums lately, with the passing of her mother in mid-June. No one called anymore to offer their condolences. Daily routine amounted to no more than collecting the morning newspaper, a little hoovering, and then the hours finally culminated in daytime television repeats. Shows that her mother had enjoyed, not her. They'd passed her mother's final years trekking the local park, the old girl in a wheelchair, and re-watching old videos, all the actors in them long since dead. Now her mother was with them as they entertained for the angels. Reflecting on her own life just brought misery. 2 marriage proposals in 56 years, excuses had been made and the engagements dropped. Now she wondered what her life could have been like. It was the better part of 20 years ago that she'd finally broken it off with Brian. That was the same time that her mother had been diagnosed. 2 years later, the house would be transformed to accommodate disability access and wheelchairs. Stair lifts clogged the stairways in the hall, and metal bars were added to the decor of the bathroom. All it seemed in the blink of an eye. She blamed the pills on her mother's vicious tongue in the final weeks and was happy when the illness translated her words into meaningless drivel, usually followed by an upsurge of dribbling. But the meaning had still been there in her mother's eyes. On many occasions, she had wanted to scoop those eyes out with a teaspoon. They taunted her, they mocked her, they judged her. She hated the thing that her mother had become, hated the punch to her arm when her mother was displeased or upset, hated cooking when the meal would be left uneaten or flung wildly aside to decorate the kitchen wall. The cleaning, the bedpans, and that damn buzzer. All the memories ignited hatred in her mind, but not her heart. But now, her mother was dead. All her excuses had been wrapped up in a wooden box and buried in the ground. Her responsibility had ended. Her life had ended. The PC had become her only companion. She made profiles on 2 social sites and visited them every day through her mobile phone. She joined fan groups and indulged in conversation with members who overgloss films or works of art to stupendous degrees. But there were some very nice people on these sites, on these pages, and she began to build friendships with a few through her own open and honest manner. She discovered that people actually liked her, enjoyed her company, made her feel wanted. Some of them made her feel loved. Graham had pricked her curiosity almost immediately. He was 12 years younger than her and incredibly talented. His looks were average, and his eyes were generally hidden by sunglasses on his photographs. That didn't really matter. It didn't make any difference, considering that her photograph had been borrowed from a matchmaking site. There was no way that she was going to show her own face on here. She shared wall posts to his profile, and he replied in turn with pictures of her favorite movie star, well, her mother's favorite. Then his messages started to appear in her inbox, the language in these private communications being a little more colorful and a little more serious. It had been a long time that a man had been interested in her, and she really didn't know how to handle the situation. But the messaging continued. She understood that Graham genuinely liked her for who she was, and how when he asked for her mobile number, she agreed without question. His voice would echo in her mind after that first conversation, longer than any other time they'd spoken. Graham was easy to speak to and expert at sidestepping the awkward intervals with humorous pleasantry, some of which made her blush crimson in their daring attitude. But his heart was constant and honest. There were 2 key aspects that had drawn her to him in the first instance. He consoled her when she spoke of her mother and made her understand her feelings of resentments towards the illness that took her. But more importantly, he gave her identity. He made her feel alive. She began to involve herself in lost hobbies. Painting had always proved difficult, but she remembered the peace that the action had brought her. And 3 pieces were created in the space of 15 weeks. She posted them on her profile with some glowing comments from her cyber friends, and she donated her mother's videos and clothes to the local charity shop. She talked constantly with Graham on the telephone, right through until dawn. Like all romances, when they spoke, the time came and went too quickly, and each one waited for the other one to ring again. Graham wanted to meet her. This was the one instance that she hadn't planned on for in advance, but she knew that the feeling was intensely mutual. Many times she'd actually felt his presence with her in bed as they talked, kissing her, stroking her. She gazed at her reflection in the full-length mirror. Short, 5'2.5". She was curvy, a full figure with a head of dark greying hair, clear eyes that were naturally dark, a gift from her father's genes. But she had jowls. She had the hint of a double chin, and this made her want to cry. She wanted to stop the world and jump off. How could Graham meet her? The date was set, and Graham would be arriving at the weekend. A wily text message from her instructed him to go to her house. She used to have a friend called Melanie Carruthers. She was sure that Mel wouldn't mind that she'd borrowed her name. Just for a little while, anyway. She grinned at her own ingenuity. The text ran thus: "I've been staying with my friend Melanie for a short break. She will meet you and make you feel at home until I come home from work. I love you. Kiss, kiss, kiss." Her heart skipped when he replied with an affirmative. On the train. Should be there in 2.5 hours. Kiss, kiss. She took a bath, and soaping and massaging herself, she thought about him and the nights to come. In the taxi, 30 minutes. Kiss, kiss. She dug out some DVDs that they had discussed. A pleasant evening viewing some old classic movies. His taste was excellent. The doorbell rang, and she approached the door as an executed prisoner approaches the scaffold. His reflection in the frosted glass made her heart jump again as she took off the chain and the bolt. As she opened the door, she thought of the new stratagem. Melanie blurted out that her friend had just telephoned to say that she was stranded. There'd been an accident on the motorway, and that she would be answering questions for a few hours, as she was the key witness. Graham accepted the excuse for the lady being absent and took the offered seat and the first of 4 cups of tea that he would drink. He was very chatty, skinnier in person, but his eyes were bright, his forehead was wide and suggested great knowledge. He made her laugh easily, and she enjoyed catering for him. They covered many subjects. Using her mobile phone, she rang the landline number whilst he was engrossed in the movie. She picked up the landline and talked into the dead receiver. "Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, of course I'll tell him. No, he's fine. He's just watching a film, and then I'm going to bed. Yes, of course I'll give him the message. I'll see you tomorrow." Graham looked more than a little disappointed. She stalled for more time, and she relayed her friend had decided to book into a hotel until the morning, as it had started to rain heavily in her part of the world, and she was awfully tired after answering so many questions. And would he like another cup of tea? In the kitchen, she was frantic. How long before he was on to her? Surely his thoughts must be turning sour. Perhaps if she made a move on him, or she got a bit closer to him, a little more intimate. She shook her head. Oh, she made such a mess of things. When he wakes up in the morning, he'll decide to go and leave her. The shovel made a really funny, clanging noise as it connected with the back of Graham's head, and the head itself flopped comically to one side. Tea that he'd just drunk spurted from his mouth in a brown, stream. He looked around as she started to swing again. She loved those first startled expressions of realization, but realized that she was really out of shape, and he dodged the second swing. She raised the shovel over her head and brought it down a third time. The edge sliced through the right side of his face, opening his cheek. Blood really traveled quickly, she noted. Graham whimpered and slumped to the ground. His hand brushed her foot, and she moved away in disgust. Three more whacks with the shovel, and the work would be done. His fingers were still twitching, but she had learned that this was a reflex reaction. She gave a couple of extra shots just to make sure. The black and white horror film that played on the screen looked pretty cool with Graham's blood splashed across the picture. She marveled. She was glad his weight matched his build. He was easier to drag to the cellar than Brian had been. She laid him next to that cheap slut, Manny Carruthers. From the dark corner of the cellar, her mother stared at her, but without eyes. She'd eaten them long ago. A rat crawled over Melanie's face, and it made her grin. How fitting, she thought. Graham would enjoy it here with his new friends, she thought, and she smiled, pleased with herself for a job well done. She turned off the light in the cellar and returned back to the living room. This wasn't too bad. She'd never opened the blinds, so she had lots of time to clear up. Just before she turned in, she decided to check her account on her mobile.